Joining us on stage, Glenn Coates and Tobi Lütke.
Hey everyone. Tobi, we are back.
Nice. I'm so glad to be here. How are you all doing?
Did anyone get any sleep last night?
Apparently not. Doesn't sound like it, man.
My apologies for anyone who is staying near Shopify employees because you probably didn't get any sleep, so apologies in advance for that. Tobi, my particular path through Shopify was a little bit unusual because I joined in 2019, which means the last Unite that I came to was in this room. Remember?
Yeah, look different.
Which is kind of like, it's kind of a long walk back to...
It's true.
It's a very different Shopify though, right? I mean, you've seen every version. We have a bunch of questions from you guys, which thank you for sending them in, but before we dive into, the hardballs that are coming our way, like, what's it like to be back here, Tobi, and seeing these people?
I mean, man, there's a lot of daylight between Shopify of 2019 and 2025. I have to say, it's like, one of my favorite things to do actually is Shopify is in another building. We are doing hack days right now, which is one of the rituals. My hack day project that I'm working on is I'm trying to Dockerize and set up the old versions of Shopify, so that we have 2006 to 2025 of .shopify.io, which is our internal stuff. This means nothing to all you, but it's actually kind of fun to go back and see the horrors of the past.
Yes.
It's I remember Shopify to be quite good, and when I'm looking, this project has definitely disavowed me of that opinion compared to today.
I'm glad because for those of you who are outside of Shopify, one of the most painful things is when you build a new thing and Tobi says, "Didn't this work in 2008?" And how are we back here? And then he pulls up the original version of Snow Devil and points at some obscure pixel and says, "There it is."
Tell us how you really feel about that. All right. So no, look, it's super cool to be back. Hey, just from my perspective, I really, really hope this is sort of echoed by the community too. I'm super proud of the community. I just it's always been such an important part of the mission of Shopify. It's awesome to do this, pursue this mission together to make commerce better for everyone. Right? You guys are having a huge impact onto this. I do think something quite magical happened in the last, let's say, 18 months, 2 years. There's just, I think everyone found a couple of extra gears and. This is magic. I love guys the X communities or the LinkedIn posts that this is real magic. You guys building awesome stuff, and so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Yeah.
Round of applause. Yeah.
All right.
I will say that sometimes I can't tell if Tobi's my boss or Twitter's my boss because. You guys have a very strong habit of finding the crappiest things about Shopify and then tweeting about them extremely publicly, knowing that Tobi is watching all the time.
Yeah,
and if you could see the production line that goes from Twitter to my Slack DMs with Tobi, it would be.
There's definitely a pipeline of disgruntled X post to next edition through our DMs. It's a well one. Anyway, so
sometimes it's just the link to the tweet and then just a question mark, and then I'm like, yeah.
Wow, yeah, that doesn't sound that good. It's effective though. Books.
The other thing I would say before we get into the questions is, Tobi said a second ago that we've kind of hit another gear over the last couple of years, and I really feel that. I feel like the quality of the apps and the themes built on Shopify have really just... I remember when I started here at Shopify, I had this distinct impression coming from the outside that I was like, there's an ocean of spread between the quality of like the core Shopify experience and like what the apps seem like. They almost seemed like they were sort of completely disconnected from one another, other than the fact that one of them was sitting in an iframe embed of the other one. And I really feel like the work that you guys have done over the last couple of years, and particularly any of you who've actually gone and done the work to do the Built for Shopify stuff, I can't say how much I appreciate it and how much of a difference it makes in terms of the experience of going into the admin. I always try to put myself in the shoes of a merchant, going into the admin and seeing what it's like now to use core Shopify and the apps that you guys build side by side, and how it feels like so much more like one experience now than it did before. And it's easy to lose sight of that because we're each locked into our own software every day, right? Like we're obsessed with the little screen that we're working on. But when you take a step back and you see how it all comes together as you move from one app back to the admin to the next app, I don't know. I mean, it just makes a big difference.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
It feels like a real operating system, which was our ambition all along, right? So it doesn't feel like there's like a sort of privileged class screen and then not like sort of an extensibility framework, right? Like so, it's like looks like a cohesive whole, and I think we can do this even better. So, good. Let's actually get to questions. Folks.
Yes, we should actually get to the questions.
You do a typical PM thing here. It's like,
I know.
We have an agenda and like we're talking about everything else. So,
all right. So we got some questions sent in from all of you via I think a form or something. But thanks for sending. We picked out the ones that we thought were the representative of what was on the minds of everyone in the room. The first one is from. I will just say first names, not last names. Timu from Finland. That's Timu from Finland, not China. So slightly different tariff situation. But the question is a relatively open one, but I think you'll take this where we take it, Toby. What will be the role of Shopify in the new era of AI agents? So how do you think about our role and the role of the platform as everything is changing?
Yeah, so I mean, like, priority number one is like help the merchants on Shopify do well in a time where technology changes, right? Like it's like this is core mission of Shopify, right? Like so, like very often when technology platforms evolved, the small and medium businesses that were dependent on software did not adapt quickly enough, and usually got replaced. Like once a lot of buying went to mobile phones, and everyone's non-Shopify e-commerce stores didn't support like some kind of responsive themes or mobile-only themes as we had it back then. That was really bad for them. So as an example, this is number one.
That was like famously one of the moments in the last 15, 20 years where Shopify helped a lot of people look in the right shape for the way technology had become, in a way that would have been an insane amount of work for them to go and rebuild all their sites to be responsive or whatever it would have required.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those like in 2007 when the iPhone came out, it was like 100% of e-commerce went through desktop computers that we designed for, and then by 2011 it was 50%, like 50-50. And if you didn't know that as a small business, then you just had 50% of your sales disappear. If the platform you were on happened to upgrade you in place, you had a larger addressable market than before. You grew for not even knowing, because 50% shifted, and not, the demand was there on the phone side. The supply, not every even large retailer was aware of this and adjusted. So that shifted GMV to the SMB, which is amazing for a platform. We all grow and get better customers. Some businesses today are very big because they use that as a springboard for their career, for their trajectories. Okay.
Actually, one of those examples where being small and being nimble was actually an advantage. Like if you were an extremely large retailer trying to turn an enormous site and repackage it was hard.
Yeah, because we hope that the small business look for an edge, right? Like that's what they should, and that's only possible if it's not like super expensive. Like because if you have to go get the entire system rebuilt for the new platform, then of course then you're just like you can't afford that. So never mind if you are aware. So okay, how does this relate to AI? Same difference, right? Like we what are we doing? again, we do not want to go and like, I mean, obviously we're building a lot of things in the AI space, partly because we need to satisfy our own curiosity about what works. And in many cases, what we will do is turn around to the community and saying, here's what we discovered, or here's a tool that sort of we think is load-bearing for all sorts of additional services. For instance, you saw this in current edition. We did the storefront MCP, which is a very technical kind of thing, but like what it is like it just makes it so that we can guarantee a base level experience for on storefront chatbots, right? We can say we want every shopper across the millions of Shopify stores to have a really, really good experience, because that will move if people have a really delightful experience with one of those chatbots, frankly, that reduces support volume for the small business, which is deeply appreciated, I suspect. And also, it will change future behavior when they shop from other stores. They will do this again. And what we want us to do is make the highest likelihood of these experiences to be good. So what are we doing? So like we can expose order tracking, because that's a very common question. And of course, make sure that the products are well structured. You can ask it questions about policies, these kind of things, right? So I offer this as an example of we actually see ourselves as platform raising our boats here, which is where we are most comfortable.
And let's take that as an example, Tobi, because I think the most obvious thing in the world to do with an LLM is build a chatbot, right? It's like the number one P0 thing. Maybe you could talk through your thinking as we looked at this space, because we have an app. It's sort of a simple one, but we have an app in this space, Shopify Inbox, that does do that thing. And we have APIs that sort of serve storefront data. We have the customer accounts API, we have the storefront API. We didn't have the MCP layer. We didn't, when we also released the knowledge base thing, but there's a lot of things we could have worked on there, right? Like there's the application layer, there's the API layer, there's the data layer. How did you reason through where we should be putting our time, given all of the choices we had of what we could have worked on?
Yeah, this is sort of falling back on my experience with open source software, like very early days of Shopify and Ruby on Rails framework that we built. It's just really, really, really good to focus on the lowest layer and bring it up. But the thing that doesn't work well is just on speculation build abstractions. That just leads to all sorts of problems. So I always want to have a dog fooding, it's called. If you're not from the developing world, this sounds weird, but that's a term. So you want to dog food the thing that, you want to build something that people can immediately use. We don't want to address the general case. We want to address sort of a specific case, just so that we have experience of what the other side looks like, so that we can build better developer tools. Inbox is really excellent for this, for us. And when we build the platform, we will use this. We have our own first customer, and then we release the platform. So you've seen us do this millions of times, actually. Maybe not aware of it, but this is the way we do subscription apps, an example, bundles.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it happens all the time. Works really well.
The interesting thing that I found this time is we came back to another one of our, principles, which is we try to create leverage from the platform, basically, right? And I think one of the pushes you had, which I think will, in the fullness of time, will prove to be quite valuable, is noticing that missing data primitive, which was Q&A, right? Shopify is in a sense, Shopify is just a huge structured Q&A system of answers to what is the price of this product, what is the title of this product, but there was a gap there of, well, what's the generic data primitive that all the apps could use? Because otherwise, we know every time there's a missing data primitive in Shopify, we know that everyone will be forced to invent their own version of it, but then there's fragmentation and there's no interop, and I guess this is another one of those examples.
Yeah,
right?
I think the QA app is a good example of a missing primitive, but it's also a primitive of its time. QA pairs, is not something that was super useful before. LLMs. I think in the future, there's a lot of policies that like you have to have a privacy policy and all these kind of things. Really, those are generated documents from decisions that the business makes. And I think a better way to get at these decisions is actually asking, what are your goals here? Capturing this as a Q&A pair for lack of like question answer, right? In the future, maybe these policies don't actually exist as such in the databases anymore, but actually end up just being generated from the answers to the Q&A pair. I think more parts of Shopify could actually be simplified by increasingly asking people questions in maybe even conversations through AI. I don't know if I'm right about this, but if I'm right about this, or if our tests are good, then I wish we have a primitive in the system, like QA pairs that can persist these decisions in such a way that then everyone else can build on top of it too, right? Because when you we're on first question, you have a stack, so let's go.
How often would you guess that Tobi and I's meetings end on time? The next one is a pretty intense question. It comes from David in, I'm going to butcher this, Czechia, Czechia. I am like unbelievably bad at geography.
You're very Australian.
Yeah, I know. We're just really far from everything, guys. We practice swimming, not geography.
I could bail you out right now, but I won't. This is funnier.
Okay, the question is, Microsoft's CEO suggested SaaS may soon be obsolete. What's your take on that prediction?
Oh man, no, I not really, right? I mean,
wrong. Next.
No, but honestly, there's look, people are making. Sometimes, I certainly do this too. CEOs of public companies learn to scale their statements in intensity if they want them reprinted, because otherwise, if you don't end up veering out of the median of what you say, then no one captures the soundbite, right? So I don't think SaaS is over. I think SaaS is going to change a lot, right? It's we are all getting lots of inputs here from the vibe coding world, which in a way is it's short-term overhyped, long-term underhyped, which seems hard to imagine right now, but it's probably true. We will figure out what this actually is and what the pro tools look like related to it, and that will change SaaS in a significant way. But it changes in such a way that every good sustainable piece of SaaS software has been hired by its customers to solve a problem at expert level, right? Mm-hmm. And the ability for all software to do this better and from fewer pieces of information, or again, a conversation like I just talked about, or any of these things, understand what actually the goals are and act on it is massively increasing. So what's certainly over is the current world of SaaS unchanged. Entropy will, based on internal processes, some companies will use software that isn't being changed for a long time. I'm not saying this all goes away overnight, but there will be changes. This is very good for every piece of software that's being very cared for there, which is just don't fall. No one should fall in love with current solutions. Everyone should reconnect, falling in love with the types of problems that they wanted to solve and setting out the software. Everyone who does this is going to do very, very well.
Yeah. Tobi, I've said this before, you're a highly internet native person, to put it mildly. And we were talking the other day about invisible asymptotes, right? And what, this statement from... This statement is SaaS may soon be obsolete, which is another way of saying the current thing is the current type of software is going to asymptote to zero, which is almost never true, right? Yeah. It's mobile appeared, and everyone's desktop's over, and it's no, it's not. It asymptoted to whatever, 60 or 70 or something, but it didn't asymptote. That's very different than asymptoting to 99.9, right? And we spend all our time building software, and the people in the audience here spend a great majority of their time building software. And so if you think about the act of building software to serve customers like we do all day, what are some of your intuitions about some of these asymptotes that are going to change? Like what parts of, even if we just talk about Shopify, like what parts of Shopify do you now think we should maybe invest more in? And what parts do you think maybe need less investment, because of the potential asymptote of like how development is going to change? Like, have you got any intuitions about that?
I mean, like everything from internal, a lot of projects about like how to just like accelerate our internal engineers to build things. I think we are getting much more ambitious again about evolving things like Polaris and so on, just because like just to set up components to help ourselves like help Shopify, right? Like, and I think that's a really, really fun exercise. Just like there's so many opportunities. I think in terms of the software that we deliver. Well, look. So let me Shopify has a very strong internal tools culture, right? Like which I think people should be less surprised by than they tend to be when they get in contact with a company, because Shopify literally was an internal tool I wrote at the beginning. So it's like where we started. So it was an internal tool to run Snowdevil, which was a snowboard store you all haven't heard of. So this is where we started. We do a lot of those. I know a lot about building internal tools. Here's the thing about them. Writing bespoke software is vastly simpler than generic software, right? Like just like it's not close. Like it's building Snowdevil, the first one, took like 2 months, and built a bunch of Ruby on Rails along the way. I thought it's going to take me another 2 months to turn this into something that other people could use to sign up, and it took me a year and a half.
How's that going?
Like, it was like 21 years later. We're still working on it. So, like making generic software is a lot more work. Because you have to make a lot of compromises, and this is very hard to do. And even if you do this very, 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 very carefully and very successfully, as in the case of Shopify, you will wind up with something that is not staying at it will in certain areas that are getting more complexity will become less approachable to the new users, right? Like let's be honest, like the setting screens are a lot more intimidating today than they were in 2006. Mm-hmm. And so I think here is where probably the biggest advantages are, because I don't think we need the massive configurability anymore, right? Like, and if you want, like this has been Shopify, I think, has like sort of projected this idea through all these, even Liquid itself is like, something that it's like you can sort of vibe code before you had vibe coding, right? Like it's just like if you knew HTML really well and knew how to use curly brackets, you could like sort of write it from top to bottom, especially before like all the other storefront editor days. And and then extensions. We want, instead of making everything configurable, we want to actually just make flexibility through creating, just allowing people to sort of state currently for code, maybe in the future for more English, what they actually want and their goals. And then some of these UIs, the setting screen that's perfect for your business might actually auto-generate. And that ends up being like a very, very much more tractable user experience, which I think can make entrepreneurship more common. You have like Sidekick, then you can ask questions, just like this, like making the experience of entrepreneurship simpler is like, I think, is the thing, because we can give the experience of like a perfectly configured Shopify store hopefully feels like the best possible bespoke piece of software that someone might have possibly created for you with essentially infinite resources. Right? Like so, that is an experience that is the product of thousands of engineers at Shopify working for decades now, right? Like, and I think this will be a more common experience through these new systems. And I think that's the area to really explore. Good.
Yeah. I mean, this has always been one of our challenges is, how do you build the perfect, whatever it is, like payment settings, setup screen that will work from like my mom and our largest Plus merchant. Like how
DNS, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like 20-year quest to get a DNS screen that's actually usable.
I know. But it is like the one size fits all thing has always been the, you know, I mean, I literally remember my earliest like VC pitches for a handshake back in the day, and the advice everyone would give you would be like, don't try and serve the big ones and the small ones at the same time. Like pick one. You can't do it all, right? And so, one of the things we are learning about Shopify is that because so much of our raw platform capabilities are exposed through the GraphQL APIs, in a world where basically the cost basis of generating new setting screens or simple UI has massively compressed or might compress, the possibility of generating, as you said, like that kind of bespoke experience for that person is sort of more within reach, as long as those APIs are there. It gets a lot harder if those APIs are not sitting there waiting for your code to show up. All right, I'm going to keep us moving because I'm doing super terrible. We're at 2 questions in 20 minutes. This one, though, is more on the kind of search and shopping side. So with the news of an integration between Shopify and OpenAI to allow shoppable ChatGPT conversations, what are some of the new opportunities for both apps and agencies to serve merchants better and reach new potential customers? That's from Ruth in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the new frontier, right? Like the reason why this is a wonderful thing about the platform size is that we can, work with OpenAI on behalf of millions of merchants and all our partners to be written into the story of like the sort of chatbot revolution, right? Like we don't know exactly where it goes. We don't know if it's asymptotes. We don't know if it's just going vertical. But like making sure that sort of independent, sometimes owner-run, or like commerce alongside all the like larger customers that are coming to the platform are going to be super well represented. Is actually literally the same thing as the thing we talked about with the mobile transition, right? So I'm glad that's working, and we'll find really interesting like effects of this. I imagine that more people in the world will get experiences that currently are like something that it's like really well-to-do people would get from personal shoppers, like deeper research and so on. And I think like this should be really good for the platform, like for us and for our community, just because it's usually the products that people end up when they actually do their research are the ones they buy on Shopify stores, right? Like, this is very good. Like the products that everyone wants tend to be on Shopify, which is like infinitely gratifying. And so, what the partner ecosystem can do, well, first of all, like it's not all going to be OpenAI, right? Like there's, and again, we are putting these APIs out there. You see, like you should pay attention to the catalog API and the cards that we talked about. Because we are also there trying to create the infrastructure to make these kind of things much easier to build, right? Like, so this is not fully figured out exactly what shape this takes, but we would love ideas about what opportunities people are seeing. The goal is like when anyone I think we are going to see a more Cambrian explosion again of new surfaces that people are using, right? Like the internet was quite static in terms of URLs that people hit, and in fact.
And even the traffic patterns as well, right? Yeah. Like the internet's been in this like web, mobile, Google, Meta, like it's been a pretty static shape for the last few years, right?
Yeah, it's even scarier. Like it was a very strong trend line for having at least under 20-year-olds not even have Safari on the first screen of their iPhone's apps, right? So like that's not great. I mean, obviously they are on Instagram and can still, like, thankfully we have integrations there and therefore keep seeing another day, but like it's, that got pretty close. I think that's a little bit of a reversal. I think we'll see a lot more usage of AI-first applications. A lot of this is delivered through web, partly because of the restrictive nature of some of the platforms. And what we want is like if anyone take off, like and commerce likely happens basically everywhere, let's get the integrations going.
Right. You went past it very quickly, Toby, but I'll just sort of say for everyone in the room, one of the stories in the edition that if you don't read it carefully, you might blow past, because it's got a sort of an innocuous sounding name.
Yep.
It's called the Shopify catalog, which are both words that we use a lot, but put together. This is the...
No, he's like, I stole the term from him. It's like many of the engineers here know this. There was a thing called catalogs in Shopify, but I just like Len, you're renaming this. Like I need the word for the global thing. So it's like I think we're still bitter about it. Good.
Right. But it's a meaningful shift, right? Because Shopify's APIs until now have been always very store by store, right? You're talking to this storefront API of this shop, or the admin API, or whatever. Yes. But the Shopify catalog is essentially our first real global API that, broadly speaking, it's essentially a huge search index of all the products on all Shopify stores, as if you had crawled them all, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you could just do, I know we're short on time, but we could just do a quick second on your thoughts on like these new global APIs and what that might mean for some of the people in the room.
I honestly, I don't even want to necessarily anchor this too much, because I think like if you zoom out enough and you think about all of Shopify can now be sort of given like to a, I don't know, like let's say a Perplexity or something, which is like search engine and sort of nouveau search engine. If you haven't used it, it's really, really good. You know, they need access to, like they could crawl the entire internet and get a very stale version of everything, but like it's actually much, much more effective to just like forward their queries to services like Shopify. We can actually do the retrieval much better, because we can, like, it's like this is main quest for us and it's like side quest for everyone else.
Right.
And so, you know, just like we can work with them. And I think there's millions of other use cases that like all of Shopify's, like the best product of Shopify is all of the products on Shopify, right? Like so, and delivering that efficiently is something we have worked very, very hard on.
Yeah. So I would say pay attention to that, and I would say the meta point here is just there's so much white space at the moment. There's so much. We're not really 100% sure what people will build with the storefront MCP. We're not really sure what people will build with the Shopify catalog, or as we move into like global cart and things like that. This is just a very wide open time. And I would just encourage all of you to experiment.
Yeah.
You know, like we actually really don't know what is going to happen in some of these white spaces.
And I also just like experiment maybe, like I know we are talking here a lot about the sort of embedded and built for Shopify apps, but like actually also consider being like really, really ambitious around purchasing interfaces, alternative ones, right? Like we're just like between, again, like the future is quite predictable in the sense that whatever rich people spend a lot of money on today is something everyone wants, right? Like it's just like obviously. So personal shoppers, like you see, like Uber worked because that people had car service, and everyone like it's better than trying to flag a taxi, right? So like once you realize this, like a lot of technology shifts can actually be predicted quite well, and so you know, personal shoppers that are like, you know, once a week, like they have your image and use like style transfers to like just like, okay, well, try on all these things, and you want to redecorate the room. Well, you know, sort of we will figure out how to do commerce vastly better on the internet, and I think I would not underestimate the unfair advantages in terms of experience that everyone in this room has here. So, and that's very, very, very good. And again, we are building APIs to make all the chicken egg problem here. Like every time you build something, especially a standalone thing, by the way, you can build stuff like this into the shop app as well, which is like just something to consider. But if you're doing it a standalone app that says like, okay, I want to redecorate my living room and I'm going to draw a couple of boxes and I'm going to swipe through all the products, the furniture that fits into it, then that might make it big. And getting merchants to sign up for something like this is going to be very hard. But again, this is why we're building what we're building, and you will be able to query for just all the products that have 3D models, right? Like, and in the future, not again right now, but like if you give us the use cases for this, then we can do it sooner rather than later. And yeah, because we are really, really excited for better internet and better shopping systems. And I think doing the annoying thing of like trying to sign up like customers over and over again for these things is like, this is where all the slowdowns come out. So focusing on the experience. And yeah, so anyway, that's the vision. Okay, we got to actually answer some questions.
Okay, we're going to move on to non-AI topics.
I think that's wise.
Yeah. The second, a question came in. Actually, there was a lot of questions that were all sort of around a theme about international. This is about Shopify payments, availability in Japan, Latin America, so on and so forth. So I think there are developers from 52 countries here in the audience today, which is actually kind of awesome. It's very humbling, actually. So thank you for making the time to come here. I guess the meta question behind all these questions, Tobi, was what are your thoughts on what's next for Shopify's international expansion? What can you tell us about how Shopify prioritizes other markets? And then I guess in there might be, obviously, global trade is changing a lot right now, ... tariffs, etc. How are you thinking about that?
Well, the most important thing to me was like actually, again, create the primitives by which, like merchants themselves can have an international, because again, number one, with all the vast majority of code that Shopify writes should go to the benefit of our customers, right? So that's just super important. So I'm really excited about markets. It's so it's probably not fully understood yet, or maybe also in some ways not 100% realized, although we are pretty there now. Yep. It's I think this is just such a fantastic way to make a merchant's global ambitions legible because running a business of that complexity across multiple countries with differing strategies and pricing and shipping rates and so on is just like complex, right? So like making this legible was an ambition, and we figured it out. Super cool. So Shopify, international is a priority. We are actually moving quite fast. We finally.
I feel like we've unlocked a lot of the sort of shipping. Like we candidly found it difficult to get some of the shipping and tax kind of things right in I know in certain parts of Europe in the past few years, but I feel like that's moved a lot more quickly in the last year even, right?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem is like Shopify, from our perspective, has always been that Shopify is like e-commerce is at the intersection of culture, technology, legislation, and local infrastructure, and then also subject to the changes of all these things independently in every region. So like it's like every market is a commitment from Shopify, and I found that even like it organizationally was extremely hard to make good on these commitments in terms of quality of translations, even and so on. Right. So this is just one of those areas that I should just like say that just like even with the resources to hire an infinite amount of like incredibly patient and local people of local knowledge, it became like it's just so hard to do something like this that then works year after year. I always end up learning about one country where something just went badly, right? Like, and so just like with AI, like after you build your full-on deep research stack about a market that answers every question that's relevant to Shopify, you can run it every week and just learn about diffs, right? Like, and just like doing that and knowing that this will run forever, no matter who's calling in sick and who's on vacation, is just like a really, really good way of just taking a company, like at least creating a baseline that's not makes a decision, but at least it informs us where to look. And it's just like a great example of how these new agentic processes are just like simplifying also running global businesses from our perspective, right? And even at our scale.
Right. I feel like the other part of the platform strategy that is helping with international is the increasing extent to which parts of the platform allow for extensibility that will unlock a country, whether it's
please flag us on any kind of weaknesses there. Like if you understand the way we work and you're saying, man, if there would be this one cut point, we could like totally dial it in this market, please let us know.
Yep. Payments, shipping, taxes, anything that feels like those local things that we could do better at. Okay, someone says we're loving Sidekick. Thank you. You had me at hello. We wanted to know, will we see this integrating with Shopify apps and/or third-party services at any point? That's Matt from... I actually can't believe this is a legal name. Matthew from a company called Beefy Nachos in the UK.
I think we know how to do it now. So yes, I mean, definitely in the way that apps, like integrated apps, can like expose tools to Sidekick that then like you can all like sort of client-side sort of MCP-ish export functions to Sidekick, maybe add an addendum to the prompt, and that's actually like a really good place to start, I think. We haven't shipped that yet.
We haven't shipped that yet, but I mean, actually, Jose, who was up on the stage, I think maybe second last speaker or so, he mentioned, we're doing all this work around intents, and that's going to be a way to package up pieces of our UI in a way that's reusable, but
anyway,
apps will be able to
I think suffice to say, we are absolutely into this, but one thing that we want to make sure is that we have a strong conviction that we don't have to come back 15 minutes later and tell everyone to do it differently, right? Like, so that's, I think we are pretty much there now. So something will happen in the near future, I suppose.
But yeah, I think everyone in this room should expect that like Sidekick is going to Sidekick is going to be talking to your apps, and your apps are going to be talking to Sidekick, and there's going to be more and more of this as we go on.
Yeah, Sidekick is pretty load-bearing for Shopify.
Yeah. It's just going to be difficult. It's going to be at some level difficult to tell the difference between Sidekick, where the line between Sidekick and regular Shopify is at some point, right?
It'll come, at least sort of like those things will just work together, and I think we don't want to, like, it should be available for people who prefer that as a modality, right? Like, and some people will not, right? Like, I do a lot of things on my Mac on the command line, which I could do with clicking, and that's just my choice, and I'm glad that they don't stop shipping the terminal window, right? So, like, this is, but maybe that is not the worst analogy, like, sort of playing out here over time.
Okay, this one is about, I guess, like broadly speaking, leadership. So with endless options and the rise of AI, staying focused on the right things has become harder than ever. I agree keeping Tobi focused on, if you try to present PowerPoint slides to Tobi for more than about 90 seconds at the beginning of the meeting, it's going to be a very rough meeting. I don't advise you to ever do that. So how do you manage your attention and stay focused in the midst of all the noise? That's from Eric from Denmark.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I do. Right? Like, I sort of...
I agree.
I have weaponized and exoskeletoned my ADHD, and I can roam over the entire space because, like, it's always the next shiny thing is... No, I mean, actually, there's some truth to this. Like, I think actually it's a fantastic time to like roam over the problem space to get your hands around what's actually happening. There's always a new model, and now which is distracting. But like, it's also never been as easy to try the stuff really fast to satisfy your curiosity, and you always learn something which makes you better in the next meeting because we're trying to do exactly this service to our customers. So I don't know. I don't think this is the time to be like utterly locked in unless you already picked the thing that you're going to do at this point. I don't know, go to a cabin that has like a Faraday cage in it or something like this would be probably the best way to do it. That's what I would need. Okay.
I'm now wondering if you have a cabin with a Faraday cage in it.
I was at least considering it. It's if there's a Shopify store selling Faraday cages, I think it'll do great. Right.
Although I will say, I mean, your point being like, don't get locked in on the current thing. Funnily enough, so the demo that Eitan did of like building out the Shopify app earlier. The crazy thing about that is when they were rehearsing that, and I essentially ordered them to do it live because I was like, if I'm going to humiliate myself on stage last year, you guys have to do it this year. And I think a week ago they tried to do that functions demo, and it would, and they were doing it with Claude 3.7, and it would actually fail 4 times out of 5.
Yeah.
And then this week, 4.0 came out, and now it succeeds 4 times out of 5.
Yeah. The best thing you can do is create yourself reproducible benchmarks for the things you would like to be possible, because then you can automate figuring out when something works.
Right. Okay, lightning round, Tobi. I mean, you maybe sort of, I don't know. What is your favorite model right now?
AI model, I suppose, is like the question. Like,
yes. You sniffed out the trick question. Congratulations.
Okay, yeah. I think I'm mostly ending up using like the shit. Now I'm using all three mostly. Honestly, like I can't actually tell you. I use them for different purposes. So bad answer.
Well, maybe answer that. Which ones do you use for each thing? Like, what are your favorite things for
all
each?
three by default, and then the Gemini models, because I'm like weaponizing massive context windows with like loading them up with an insane amount of stuff, and then try to sift through a lot of data. Actually, that's a way to pay attention to more stuff. And then like I think, I mean, at least playing with the news on it. I've had that the 3. Like the Anthropic models got momentarily replaced there. I think for the 4 release is a comeback story, so I'm using those more with programming again.
Right. Similar topic. What is your favorite vibe coding environment currently?
I just mostly use Cursor and unannounced. Unannounced stuff. So
you were a pretty big fan of Windsurf, I remember. Yeah. But then when the price became $3 billion, it's a bit expensive.
Yeah. That's I don't know.
All right.
Again, I think just again using them all like actually helps too, because again we're trying to get our arms around what the future looks like, and you have to work in trend lines if you want to predict the future. Yes. You need to see VS Code and then Cursor and then Windsurf and see how they fit into the scatter plot, because you need to draw a line if you want to know what development environments look like next year, right? So this is why it's useful.
I would actually say, for the people who ask these 2 questions, what is Tobi's favorite model, favorite vibe coding environment? The answer to both is it changes every week, from my experience. And that's probably like the most useful thing to say.
Yeah.
Here's one. If you could take back a single technological decision you made at Shopify 10 years ago, what would it be?
No.
There's so many to choose from.
Elasticsearch is a mistake.
In what way?
In our scale, anyway. It's probably quite good, and like we just like this is one of those things. Some technologies are like very sort of gentle, like you get to the point where they just don't do the thing that you need. Like your databases will sort of slow down and gives you lots of opportunities to change your strategies or like deal with your slow queries and stuff like this. Like Elasticsearch just happens to be one of those things that you just hit a brick wall head first, and that's it. Right, like it's so that's a very bad fit for a company that's scaling at our rates. So keeping that thing alive was hard, and we now like have a team that's building like search in C++ from scratch. Let's go.
Right.
That is something we should have done earlier.
I will say that was a very so for those of you who don't know, we did an acquisition, I think maybe 3 months ago, maybe it was something like that. Yeah, earlier this year, of a company called Vantage, which is in the search space. Well, it was a very strange experience, because when Mikhail showed up as our new CTO...
I think we are out of time for story time. I'm sorry. Like, I just like, this is like aggressively red. The content monitors are hilarious, because first of all, they have ads at the bottom, which I've never seen. That's hilarious. It actually tells Glenn and I that we really should invest into Google Ads. And the wave is turned from like green to yellow to red. It's like someone
but it has been stuck at 01
for a while.
So yeah, but it's been stuck at 01 in a very Mission Impossible kind of way for a while.
We will yes. This was very fun. Thank you so much. And like we should
wrap it. Last question, Tobi.
Okay,
no. Last question. What is your favorite video game to play right now with your kids?
So we are. I don't think I would. I need some cooling off period, but we are done with a Factorio Space Age run, which took us something like 140 hours with the 4 of us, which I obviously was not there for most of the time, but like that was awesome. My super favorite thing, like great memories. We even we did some 3D printing from some of the factory zoom outs we built. Like wonderful experience doing this with. I have 3 boys, and so we're playing games together. That was awesome. I'm looking forward to all sorts of games coming out right now. Or like, the mainstay we've had was Sea of Thieves. Like that's just like being pirates with teenagers and then being attacked by krakens when you have too much treasure on the thing is like the craziest experience of my life. Anyway, so thank you very much, and this was great fun.
Thank you. Thanks, Tobi.
Yeah.